We're now honored to be joined by Donald J. Trump Jr. He has been really a surrogate for his father in the last several weeks. He and his brother Eric have really gotten into the whole campaign season. I just want to start with, I had an opportunity to visit with you guys in Iowa.
Yep.
I know you were all over the state of Iowa. What has been the general reaction to the message of your father in the state of New Hampshire?
It's been incredible. I mean, it was even in Iowa when you think about it. I mean, even with a second place finish, it was the highest number of people to ever turn up in a primary there or caucus. And that just means a lot. I mean, it means the message is really resonating. People really love that a non-politician is trying to do something, bringing the sense that he's had to use in business to this country. And it's just been a great message. The people have been really warm. They're receptive to it. They love the idea. They realize that politicians have given you more of the same old for the last 50 years. It's just not working anymore.
Let me ask you something that I wanted to get to the last time you were on, is that many of the, particularly some of the Ted Cruz and Ben Carson supporters who are naturally drawn to much of the message of your father, but they are what they call principled conservatives or limited government conservatives, and they're concerned about the size of government. And when they hear your father talk, they like the message of what he's talking about programmatically. They like the results. Their concern is this a guy's going to get in and all of a sudden he's going to be a big government Republican, big bureaucurist? So
no way.
I want you to address this to these guys who like your father's personality. They like the alpha maleness. They want somebody on a stand. They want an alpha male on their side of the football. But they're concerned of this issue with the Constitution and this whole issue of limited government.
Well, it's always going to be limited government with him because that's the way he runs a business, right? You can't have a business that's successful if you're bloated with bureaucracy, if you have people in there doing things that really don't serve any purpose. I mean, there's probably not a government agency in this country that you couldn't cut 30% off the top right away. And by the way, and not miss a beat, not skip a step. That's how he's going to run the country. I mean, the first thing he's going to do is get rid of the fraud and waste that we've seen, the bloated bureaucracy that's just grown and continues to grow and just perpetuates itself. I mean, that's the way he's run a business. You couldn't have the track record of success that he's had in business if you didn't do that. I mean, that's his natural way of thinking. It's cut the waste, what's superfluous, what's unnecessary, what's efficient. That's the way we need it. All these other guys, they talk about the outside candidates, but they've never done it in practicality. They've never done it in real life with their own money at stake. They've never done it when they've had people's livelihoods.
Why do you think at this point in time in America's history and America's growth as a democracy, why do you think it's so important? Because one of the central parts of your message is that we not just need an outsider, we need an outsider who's a capitalist and a businessman. Why do you think that's so important to happen today in America?
Because we need to finally start making successful deals. We can't keep going the same path we've done it. We've tried with politicians where they promise everything, but they've never had a real job. We've done that under Barack Obama, and frankly, a lot of the other second-tier candidates in this election, even on the conservative side. They do their job, they get elected, then they get on a subcommittee somewhere so they can say, oh, now I have experience. Well, check that off the box. They've never done it. They've never done it with their own money. They're playing with other people's money. They're playing with special interest money. They keep ranking that up, and they'll do whatever those guys tell them to do. My father doesn't need to do this. He doesn't have to do it. It's a pretty rough and thankless process, frankly, going through it. He could sit back and play golf and do whatever the hell he wants and have a great time, but he loves this country. It's done amazing things for him, for his family, for his business, for a career, for what it's been able to give him, and he wants to give back and do something right.
You had said one of the great takeaway lines we had for the last interview we had, and it ties to a question I want to ask. You said your father at heart is a blue-collar guy with a big balance sheet.
Correct.
Right? That's his natural inclination, is to take the team and go to a McDonald's and get burgers, or to sit around, eat a pizza and watch football with the guys.
He had a great time here at the Red Arrow last time he was here. I mean, he ordered the largest thing in the menu. They asked if they could rename it, the Trump burger. It's a burger with fried mac and cheese on top of it. I mean, that's what it is.
And he actually ordered it and ate it. Not like some politicians just want to order it and say,
got the photo up and left. He actually finished it. It's a different.
Here's a guy that's a billionaire.
Yes.
Why is so much of the resistance to him come from Wall Street? Why does it come from the financial press, the Financial Times of London, the Wall Street Journal? You've got Murdoch. You've got the titans of all media and all of Wall Street. Every major guy, it's either a hedge fund manager or a guy that's a money manager, is sitting there going, "Oh, give me anybody but Donald Trump. I'll take I'll take a state legislator like Marco Rubio."
Very simple answer. They all want to be kingmakers. If they're not a part of the process, if they can't be the one to anoint the king and have those purse strings and be able to control them like a puppet, they don't want him in there. They know they can't control my father. They know they're not going to own him. They can't get him to do what they want to do. He's only going to do what's right for the average person in America, not what's right for those guys. And so if those guys can't be the puppet masters, they don't want him, which is why he's getting that resistance, which is why he's the ultimate outsider. They try to say, oh, he's now an insider. Wait a minute. He's been in politics for all of 5 months. He's not at all. he's the ultimate outsider, and that's why, because no one controls him. He's funding his own campaign.
You're
he
saying
doesn't need their money.
this is why the Kochs are steamed in the libertarian movement, etc. They're saying we don't like this guy's authoritarian thing. We don't like his populist. We don't like the stuff he's talking about bringing jobs back. We don't like the border. We want more open border. We're going to oppose him as libertarians and capitalists. You're saying because of the fact your dad says, hey, I like the Kochs personally. They're both great guys. I know David Koch socially. Charles Koch's a great guy. I don't need their money.
Yeah, and he's not calling them for advice. What should I be doing with this? He knows what he should be doing. He knows what the average American wants, and he's going to give that to them. He's not going to be driven by those other guys who don't understand those things fundamentally.
Let's go back to the Ben Carson and to the Ron Paul group and to Ted Cruz's supporters who are very dedicated. One of the things they're also put off by your father is what they think this authoritarian, nature is. There's been this history in the United States, whether it was Lincoln or FDR, called Caesarism, where they were afraid of the man on the white horse, right? Mm-hmm. The framers had set up a system to make sure we didn't have a Napoleon, that you kind of had to go through a process of being a state legislator or working in the Senate or being a governor. They didn't want a guy come in and say, hey, I got all the solutions and kind of have this populist uprising against it. Mm-hmm. What do you say to those people that are concerned about maybe some of his authoritarian instincts?
Listen, I think he's going to do what's right for this country. I mean, he'll figure out how to make things happen, how to get deals done. He'll work with people on all sides. You can't build the business that he's had. You can't do deals both here and abroad with all sorts of different politics in place without being able to understand all sides of the spectrum, right? And be able to work with everyone to make those things happen. He's going to do what's right by this country. He's going to do a great job for it. I've seen him do it 100 times over and over again. In just the short amount of time that I've worked with him, I mean, no one's going to work harder. No one's going to outwork him. And he's going to do what's right for the people.
One thing, even people that are not huge Trump supporters, I've heard this time and again on the campaign trail, whether they've been in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, everywhere we've gone and followed your father and the other candidates for the last 2 years. Everybody says to a person that his two oldest sons, and his daughter Ivanka, because they're just getting to know the other children, but you three are so normal.
Thank you.
Right? How did a guy that's a billionaire in New York City, on the Upper East Side,
understand?
How does he raise three normal kids?
Well, first of all, that's the ultimate compliment. We hear that, and I do hear it a lot. And it's as good a compliment as I could possibly get from people. And what it is he made us work when we were young. I mean, now listen, in this country, I'm the son of a billionaire. I can't even have an opinion anymore. I could be Albert Einstein, and they would discredit me as a horrible scientist. It doesn't matter. That's the way it works, and I understand that. But he made us understand the value of a dollar. He made us work, and it wasn't like you start off and you're all of a sudden you're the CEO of the organization. We weren't trust fund babies. We were very fortunate. We experienced great things, but we were spoiled the right way. We were spoiled with great education, great experiences. We weren't spoiled with cash. Like I said, I'm the only son of a billionaire who could drive a D10. That's because those were the jobs that I had growing up. I was, working in, landscaping. I was a dock attendant. I did stuff. I started at the lowest rung of the ladder, and that was really important for him. He wanted to make sure we understood what it was that we had.
He told you that early on.
Don't take anything for granted.
He wants you to start the lowest end and learn how to learn all the jobs down there and 100%. How to respect people. That work is just.
Well,
as
if you don't know how to do it, you can't tell someone else how to do it. If you're ever going to do it, you have to understand how to do it. It's you can't talk theory and practice and deals making. You have to understand it and understand it fundamentally. It's not a spreadsheet. It's life, and so you have to actually experience those things.
What about? I've got a number of friends that know you from your as an outdoorsman. How did you become an outdoorsman, and how does that help you relate not just to people, but to the issues like Second Amendment and so many of the issues that normally that elites in New York City have no earthly idea. They may mouth thing about the Second Amendment, but they have no earthly idea because they're not hunters, they're not outdoorsmen.
Well, I think your friends can certainly vouch for me in that category, right? So I'll let them do that. But listen, I'm a competitive shooter. My brother's a competitive shooter. I'm a big hunter. That's what I do in my free time. I get out in the woods. I'm a hunter. I'm a fly fisherman. I do that. In Iowa, I actually have friends that do this. I wasn't campaigning. I'll sleep on my friend who's a state policeman's couch to go deer hunting there for a couple days. I got into that very young. My grandfather, who was a blue-collar guy from what was then communist Czechoslovakia, he was an electrician over there. And my father spoke about it pretty extensively, which is, this thing that you have in New York is great. The opportunities are incredible, but you should also see the other side to the point of, not taking anything for granted. So I used to spend 6 to 8 weeks every summer when I was young, growing up in what was then, again, communist Czechoslovakia. Just there's the woods, go have fun. I'll see you at dark. And I got into the outdoors. I want to do whatever I can to preserve that.
This is your maternal grandfather.
Correct.
That really said, hey, go out there. You got to learn how to do it. Go be a young, go be a little
guy.
boy. Right.
Think of it. This was, probably the late 70s, early 80s, and it would have been the equivalent of the 30s probably here, right? Because it was a very different world over there.
Right.
So I learned to love that aspect of it, and like I said, the guys that can vouch for me in that standpoint. That's what I do. So when we talk 2A, we really mean mean it. I mean, we shoot every weekend between my brother and I. That's what we do. It's a great pastime. I think it's a great way of teaching discipline. We're incredibly strong in the Second Amendment and what that means to us because we live that lifestyle. It's a great American tradition. Both shooting as well as, hunting in the outdoors. And I wish if I could get every kid out there doing those kind of things instead of sitting on a couch playing video games, I'd love to do it because I think it'd be important and I think they'll learn a lot.
About relating to people, I want to go to the national campaign if you guys win the nomination in a second. But one last question here. I noticed that they had on the stage the other night, one of the local reporters asked a question about eminent domain. Some of the limited government conservatives are very concerned about that. Can you give your dad's philosophy once again about eminent domain? I mean, I know he doesn't want to use it all the time, but I think it's become a hot button issue up here.
No, of course. Listen, I think there are times it has to be used. I mean, he talks about it when he talks about, roads and he talks about building hospitals. I mean, there are times that it has to be used. Keystone Pipeline, which every conservative on that stage probably wanted at some point. Hey, it's not going to happen without it. It doesn't exist. The people who are ultimately there be competent now. It shouldn't be used willy-nilly from a state, form of government. I saw, Jeb Bush just going, oh, it's so terrible, when he's trying to, make his point. Jeb Bush and his family, when they were, part owners of the Texas Rangers, did the same thing to build Arlington Stadium.
Right.
So, but that's typical politics,
my
right?
belief is Arlington Stadium was used, the eminent domain was used, and the Bushes were his brother.
They were
first,
part of it, and he's trying to.
President, right.
But it's typical politics, right? It's do as I say, not as I do. They think they can get away with a soundbite, and they throw it out there like it's so terrible, but they actually do it themselves. So it's a little bit crazy when you try to have these guys making their one point, right? Jeb's trying desperately for a win. It's hard for him, I get it, but he's trying desperately for a win. Meanwhile, they're doing the same thing in their own backyard. So it's that kind of hypocrisy that we're going to get rid of in politics. But no, listen, eminent domain is not going to be something that's going to be used on a regular basis. It's going to be used for things that are really accretive to the country.
I know you got to go. I want to ask you one more question. If your father does end up winning the Republican nomination and he goes up against the Clintons, you guys, look, you're a wealthy family. Not just that, you're a family of achievement and you're a happy family.
Yes, we are.
Why would you want to go against the Clintons that have no rules and are going to come after you in every aspect and really try to rip the family's face off? Tell us how you guys prepare if you win this nomination to go against the Clintons. And the question so many people have is electability. Can Donald Trump beat the Clintons, or is he the one, because of all his past business dealings and his times as a Democrat, etc., is the one that's actually the weakest opponent to the Clintons?
Well, I don't think so at all. I mean, I think if you talk about business dealings, I mean, if you look at it, in the end, that's a record of big success. Of course, there's bad deals here and there. That's going to happen. The Clintons have the same thing, and the Clintons certainly share their have their own controversies. And I think if there's one person that they don't want to deal with, it's my father, because he's not going to play by the same rules that other politicians have played by either. You've probably seen that in the way he speaks. He doesn't pull back. He doesn't hold back, and we're just going to have to deal with that. I think we'll be fine. It's fine. He cares more about this country than he does his business, and if it affects the business a little bit along the way, that's fine. He's willing to take that.
I take it you guys are people that if you get a project, the muzzle velocity when you start, you want to have a lot of firepower. So if you win the nomination, go up against the Clintons or Sanders and win, tell us, what do you think your father's first 100 days as president would be like? What do you think the focus and the intensity, and what do you think the 2 or 3 things he'd want to accomplish?
Well, big part is going to be cutting the waste, cutting that excessive bureaucracy and the nonsense, getting rid of that, starting to, work about actually balancing a budget and really dealing with the immigration issue, getting the wall started, and starting to put laws into place.
First 100 days.
I would say that would be still the process of that would start in the first 100 days.
So everybody says, hey, look, I like what Donald Trump says, but he'll retrade me later on. You're saying when he comes to the wall, you see the initiation, whether it's the legislation or whatever, the financing of that in the first 100 days. Starting.
100%. Listen, because it's not just about the wall and immigration, right? It's about drug trade. It's about the issues that you're facing here in
the cartels.
In New Hampshire, right?
The heroin problem.
I mean, it all comes from that.
You're saying it's inextricably linked to our open borders.
Without question. By the way, there's no one in law enforcement. There's no one that the guys and we know people on the border, right? We know people.
You've been down to McAllen, Texas. You've seen it down there.
I've seen them. I know those guys because I'm a shooter and a competitive shooter. I hang out with those guys in their free time. They can't talk on the record because they'll lose their jobs because that's the pressure they've gotten. But I can't tell you the number of guys that talk to me about the real problems, and I've seen it. Again, our friends. They found 10,000 backpacks on their ranches for people walking through.
You guys can't go down and even hunt on those ranches with the coyotes going through and the backpacks and the kids. Water.
The one friend's ranch, they found 18 dead bodies on there last year from people going through. I mean, it's a really sad state.
Just down the Rio Grande Valley.
It's terrible. Yeah, no, it's really sad to see. But I mean, if you put those things into place and create a system by which people can actually
do you give your father feedback when you go down to the Rio Grande Valley with your friend? You've told him what it's really like down there because people are shocked. It's so beautiful. People are shocked. It's really northern Mexico. I mean, it's really been taken over. It's really been taken over. McAllen's really a Mexican city now.
It's very bad. It's very it's not safe anymore. It's a shame because it's such a beautiful part of the world.
Yes. Where do you guys go today, and how can people get more information about your father's campaign?
Well, they can check out his website on donaldjtrump.com, and you can see all the position papers as it relates to the issues, which I'm sure they're going to get into detail on. I build buildings. I'm not a politician, so I'm learning as I go. I've been on the campaign trail for all of about a week now, so it's been a cool experience.
You're going to be at the big rally this afternoon that kind of culminates everything?
There. I will be at the rally, so that's going to be.
Can we get some information?
Do
you know any information about where that's?
I know it's at 6 o'clock tonight. I don't have all the details on me. I'm flying minute by minute.
We'll get it up. Thank you very much. By the way, now you're a deal guy. What's the license that you're going to give to let him take the Donald J. Trump for the
I guess you got witnesses
burger.
now. Yeah, I'm letting him rename the Big Burger here, so they can call it the Trump Burger, because I think they said he was one of the few people that pretty much finished that thing. So it's an honor to be renamed there.
Donald J. Trump Jr. Thank you so. I know you're so busy today. Thanks so
not
much
at all.
for coming
Thank you so much for having me.
Donald J. Trump Jr. Okay, we're going to go to calls. We're also going to have Stephen Miller, there, Donald J. Trump's seniors, his Donald J. Trump's advisor on policy, is going to join us here momentarily. So, Eric, Donald, thank you so much. It was fantastic to have you. I know you're jammed today.
Great to be here. Thank you so much.
Brother.